What we're going to do is we're going to solve rationals. The type of rationals that we're going to solve today are the ones with two terms, one on the left-hand side and one on the right-hand side. Whenever we have two terms, what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply. We're going to multiply the 4 times the 5, and that gives us 20. Then we're going to multiply the 9 by the x, which gives us 9x, and the 9 times the 2, which gives us 18. We're going to subtract each side by 18, and 20 minus 18 is 2. Then we divide each side by 9. So when we're looking at our first example, we see the two terms, so we're going to cross multiply. 9 times 3 is 27, and then 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 3 is negative 15. What we're going to do is we're going to get the x by itself, so I'm going to add the 15. So that right there gives me 42 is equal to 5x. In order to get the x by itself, I divide it by 5. So the answer is 42 over 5. Now for the next one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to multiply the 5 times the 2, and that gives me 10. I'm going to multiply the x times the x, which is x squared, and the x times the negative 3, which is negative 3x. Now this one is not a linear equation like the last one. This is a quadratic equation. So whenever we have a quadratic equation, we're going to subtract the 10, and we set it equal to 0, and we get x squared minus 3x minus 10. Now there's two different types. There's ones that we can factor, and there's ones that we can't factor. In this case, this is factorable. Two numbers that multiply together give us negative 10, add up to negative 3 would be negative 5 and 2. And we have two answers. Our first answer would be what gives us 0 in the first binomial, which would be 5. And our second one would be negative 2. Now for letter C, what we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to cross multiply. X times x is x squared. X times 6 is 6x. Then we're going to multiply the 2 times the 2, and that gives us 4. Once again, because it's a quadratic, degree 2, we're going to set it equal to 0, and we get x squared plus 6x minus 4 is equal to 0. Now this one, two numbers that multiply together give us negative 4 add up to 6, does not work. So we can't factor it. What we have to do is use a quadratic formula. A is 1, B is 6, C is negative 4. Now, just in case you forgot the quadratic formula, it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So what we have is x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root. Then we have 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 4. And we divide the whole thing by 2 times 1. So we have negative 6 plus or minus the square root. That would be 36. Negative times a negative is a positive, so plus 16 over 2. That would give us negative 6 plus or minus 36 plus 16 is 52. Now 52 can be broken up into 4 and 13. The square root of 4 is 2. So what we have is x equals negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 13, and we divide it by 2. So our final answer, negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 13. Pause the videos, try those next three and see how you do. So letter D, we cross multiply, and what we get is x squared equals 9. We're going to take the square root, and remember there's a positive root and a negative root, so plus or minus 3. For the next one, we do the same thing. We cross multiply, and we get x squared plus 8x equals negative 15. Because it's a quadratic, we're going to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to add the 15. And I get x squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 0. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together give us 15, add up to 8, and that would be 5 and 3. So that would be x plus 5, x plus 3. And what gives me a 0? -5 and -3. And those are our two answers. Now you could probably guess what's coming up next. We're going to cross multiply. And we get x squared plus x equals -8. We're going to add the 8 because it's a quadratic. And we get x squared plus x plus 8 equals 0. And as you probably guessed, it is not factorable. So we have to use the quadratic formula. So x equals -1. That's our a value. Sorry, that's our b value. Plus or minus the square root. We go 1 minus 4 times 1 times 8 all over 2 times 1. We have x equals -1 plus or minus the square root. 1 squared is 1. 4 times 8 is 32. And that gives us x equals -1 plus or minus the square root of -31. And what you notice is that you can't take a square root of a negative. So our answer is no solution.